everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We got a great panel. We'll start with Jim Campbell. He is the VP of Motorsports and Accessories for General Motors. Next to him, Russell Blennis, Director of Performance and Racing Propulsion. Laura Klauser is GM's Sports Car Racing Program Manager. And you know the guy in the end from TV in the number 3 car, Austin Dillon. And welcome, everybody. We're excited that you're all here. We're excited to talk about General Motors and its commitment to motorsport. And I think you saw that if you got down to the booth, you really saw GM's commitment to motorsport in the metal. And can you talk about why GM is emphasizing that here, Jim?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's great to see everybody in person. I haven't seen a lot of people here in a while. It's great to be here at the M1 Concourse. With the track here, this is a great venue to really feature our performance and motorsports platform. And there couldn't be a more appropriate place. And for our company, no matter the division, the history and heritage around performance and racing is actually pretty deep. And so we love the category. And so to be able to feature many of those vehicles in our display today, which you'll have a chance to see here later today, is wonderful. And so for us, racing is, we race for a number of reasons, but the first is the tech transfer. What we learn on the racetrack, we drive over to build better production vehicles and propulsion systems for the showroom. That's a fact. We've learned so much. We have some great examples the team will share with you. Secondly, motorsports it's fast-paced. The green flag's going to drop on Saturday or Sunday, no matter what, ready or not. And so in that fast-paced environment, it's a great place to develop engineers and also business people on the business side to move fast, make quick decisions, make things happen. And when things are going well, keep it going. If they're not going well, how do you problem solve and fix things? The third reason why we race, winning big races and championships, drivers, manufacturers championships, it lifts the brand, and good things happen when you win championships and big races. Customers put you on their shopping list more quickly. And then finally, what we love about racing is race fans get to the track early. I'm not talking about an hour early. I'm talking about hours, days, and sometimes a week early. And so in the midways, we have a chance to interface with the fans and show them what's new about Chevrolet or Cadillac or GMC. And we have a chance then down the road to potentially sell a car, truck, part, or accessory. And that we love.
So strategically, why are you in the series that you're in?
Well, obviously Chevrolet, Cadillac, and now GMC Hummer Ev, we're in a whole number of series. Part of it's our history and heritage, and part of it is the reach and scale to the race fans, and then what we can learn on the track. And so we're involved, as you probably know, in NASCAR in the truck Xfinity and the Cup Series, IMSA, both Chevrolet Corvette, C8R, which you'll hear about in a few minutes, and our Cadillac DPI. In the prototype category, we race there. We learn a tremendous amount on the track with both those programs, both on sprint and endurance formats. Indycar, we run a Chevrolet 2.2 liter direct injected twin turbo V6, and we learn a tremendous amount around, in that case, the boosting element, but also just running at higher RPMs and what does it take to deliver a great combination of performance, kind of efficiency and durability. And then NHRA, I mean, you think about the Avenues of America where people did their version of drag racing and then they formalized it with NHRA and NMCA, our Camaros, and many of our vehicles get raced there. We love that. You're going to hear about the Copo. We've got 3 of them in our display. You're going to hear about that. Best in the Desert is really about really honing our off-road skill set and our learning. It's really a place to test our trucks. Russ has been deeply involved along with other members of our team. We run with Chad Hall Racing, and really what we learn there is inform what we do on the Colorado Zr2 and Colorado Zr2 off-road, the AEV version. Those are level 2, in terms of mobility and motivity. And then also we did the same thing with Silverado, and we learned a tremendous amount that informed and really helped us develop what is now the Silverado Zr2, which we just debuted virtually, and we'll be bringing to the showrooms here in the spring. So those are a few of the examples. And then finally, I'd mention GMC with the Hummer EV. We decided to join the Extreme E Series. And it's a place for us to really learn another step in the EV journey in terms of performance and racing. So we have a Hummer EV inspired race SUV with Extreme E. We've got our next races in Sardinia, Italy, and so we're learning a tremendous amount there. So those are the places we race and some of the divisions we race with.
And I was going to ask, how do you square all this motorsports activity with the corporate initiative of zero emissions, zero crashes? I mean, is the party soon to be over?
Yeah, first of all, I think a couple things. One, I just described all the motorsports venues that we're in, and I'll talk about that in 1 second. We also, in our performance platform, have performance parts, which is really anchored by our crate engine business, and that's obviously internal combustion at this point. And then from there, we also have our performance variants both on and off road, whether you're talking about a Zr2 Colorado or a CTS V Blackwing. We basically learn on the track, develop parts, and then drive our learning into the performance variants. So with that said, how does it relate? On anything that's ICE variants, how do we deliver what we need to with more efficiency every year? How do we get better and better? Power, efficiency, durability is the key combination. How do we do that even better? The other element is that in our crate business, and GM is having its all-time record year in our crate engine business. In the history of the company, this year is it. And with that, we even have orders that we're working hard to fulfill through our supply chain side. So with that, we several years ago in 2018 we said we've got to be ready for what could happen on the EV side. And so with the work of Russell Blanis and others in our company, we created our first step in the journey, which was eCopo. I'll let Russ talk about that, which is really setting us up for developing an e-crate. And so while we're in the ICE world and crate engines and motorsports, we're also putting another foot in the camp of EV. And so it's going to be, kind of a foot in both camps, and we're going to continue to learn in both and then drive our learnings forward. I mentioned Gmc Hummer Ev and the Extreme E. We're learning a tremendous amount. And then this Russ put together this eCopo, which is electrified Copo Camaro. Copo's got a major history in the drag racing world. And we actually worked with NHRA to do demonstration runs in 2018. Here we are in 21. So we've been learning a lot about it. And so we have to do both for now, and then in eye to the future, we're going to learn every single race every year.
And Russ, I wanted to talk about that eCopo and what led to its creation and development and what you guys are learning. Can you walk me through that program a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. And as Jim stated, GM really started the crate business, and we had this expansive portfolio, and we sat down and talked about what would the future look like. And what we've always concentrated on is to try to truly have fully integrated packages, right, that you could take an older vehicle and bring it up to a modern technology. So what the e-crate was, and specifically the eCopo, was our first step at what that bookend on the electric space would look like. So at the time, we did some aftermarket work. We got an aftermarket motor, an inverter. We designed our own battery, and we wanted a package that literally you could take the engine out and bolt the motor in. So we developed this double stack motor, so 2 motors in a line with inverters on top, put the batteries in the trunk and in the back seat, and then...
Those are adapted bolt motors?
No, these are actually aftermarket at this stage. And then after that, if you look at our progression, once we got the general concept going, then we looked into our toolkit of what we had in our production components that we could take. Really, the history of the e-crate and our crates in general have been taking highly validated components that are built for production vehicles and then transfer them into our older vehicles. So you bring along all of the validation, all the design development, and that integration. So as we went through the E10 and then last year the K5, and now as we come into this final half of the year, actually launching this fully integrated package that has all the components that you need to create a vehicle over. That's really been our goal, is to give the customer an opportunity to have something that has the refinement at the level of a full production electric vehicle, but in their older vehicles.
So it's pretty state of the art. It's 800 volt architecture on that?
Yep, the eCopo is, yeah, and we designed and developed that battery in-house. We worked with some outside partners. Hancock and Lane helped us on the vehicle side. They were one of the pioneers in the electric drag racing space. So we partnered up with them and built the car, and we wanted to, the motors and the inverters were pretty kind of standard. So we really wanted to concentrate on the battery and the integration of the, truly making it bolt up, design, and then also the 800 volts, as you look at the future and with our Hummer EV going towards 800-volt charging, right, in the future, we wanted to be able to start, moving forward quickly, and that's what we do in motorsports. Use that as a tool to really reach forward,
Gotcha. And can you get the federal tax credit for that?
Yeah, well, I've been working on it. How do we get? I want the greenhouse gas, please.
But in terms of the business proposition, you guys are the biggest in crate. How do you make that transition from ICE to EV?
Yeah, and the one thing from the very beginning, it's been an interesting polarization in the performance space, because you have people, I mean, me included, love the big block, love the noise, love the sound. And really what we're trying to do is bookend that portfolio, right? For the people that want to be on the cutting edge and be the early adopters, what we want, if you look in the industry, most of the stuff that's out there, and I hate to use the word cobbled, but realistically, it's taking bits and pieces from different stuff, and there's some really innovative people putting kits together. What we wanted to do was do it properly and really give the customer that opportunity to have something at a very high level. And then really, if you look towards our future, we're already looking at the next generation stuff coming out and how it can continue to grow, because realistically, the proposition from power and weight and cost compared to a small block is hard to argue, but it's really that early adopters. And then if you look at how quickly the space is growing, very quickly we'll have stuff that's really in the hunt.
And what kind of numbers does it lay down?
Pardon me?
What, the eCopo, what?
Oh, that eCopo, yeah. So we ran, the quickest it ran was 940s at 142 miles an hour. So again, our goal didn't need it to be the fastest thing. It was really about the learning and the development, but that put it right in the hunt with our entry level Copos. So,
one thing I would add: the first time we ran it in a demo, I was quite worried. What kind of reaction were we going to get? And people loved it.
They did.
Their curiosity was there, but the eCopo that was described here by Russ. Again, we eventually got it to 940s and 140 some trap, and the fans loved it. And so, but there's a curiosity thing as well. So it's interesting as people discover performance benefits of some of the EV side of the world. It's interesting. So it's great.
Speaking of performance, I want to move on to Laura. So C8R launched last year, had a terrific season, won the championship. You just got back from Le Mans, and can you tell us about that car's debut at Le Mans and what you learned there?
Sure. Yeah, very, very proud of the launch of the car last year. So much work goes in for several years before we actually launch the vehicle, and a lot of it is learning to play in the virtual space right now, understanding how to create the car with simulation and design it for what we want, in the computer, on the simulator. And then when we finally get the parts that hit the ground running, we are able to start fine-tuning immediately instead of having to do that coarse tuning, because we were able to do all of that with the computer. And really what Le Mans taught us is that we knew what we were doing. The only place that you can really test for Le Mans is Le Mans. There's so many unique features about that track that we try to find it in other places. We do a lot of testing at Road America because that kind of, looks towards that. But it's not Le Mans. So the very first time that we were at Le Mans was the test day on August 15th. And that's basically where we got to find out, did we know what we were doing or not, as we were creating, what we thought the track needed, what we thought the car needed based on the track and the computer and all of that. And we were very, very happy to find out that we were there. Once we, got the car dialed in, which took limited amount of time, it was really just, how do we do these tiny little tweaks to try and find these little things here? And then if you watch the race, you saw that we had it. We had the performance. The car was there. It was competent. It was fast. It was competing with the Ferrari. And those were all the good learnings. We had other learnings that were not necessarily ones we wanted to, which was when the 64 car got a little tap in the rear from the Ferrari at the very start before we even really lined up to take the green flag. We found out some areas of the car that when you get rear-ended, you're going to have some problems that coming down the line. So the race itself was huge for us. It was huge to know that we had done a great job designing the car, and all the future work we're doing in design, we're all headed in the right direction. And then it was also good to learn some areas of weakness of the car and areas we might need to address as we go forward, because unfortunately things like that happen on the racetrack.
and on the street. So what are you
Yes.
pulling out of C8R for Z06, let's say, if you can talk about that?
I know we can talk about all the details of that, but I will say, and Laura's been an integral part of this, along with many others in the company, Russ on the propulsion side. Corvette is probably our gold standard for learning on the racetrack and driving the learnings over on the vehicle and the propulsion side to make our vehicles for the showroom even better. Whether it's a Corvette Coupe or convertible or whatever the next chapter is, Z06 is certainly something that we have been teasing a little bit here lately. So, and it's
I
really
had to try.
It's really it's really around 4 pillars. One is around working with Tad Schechter and all of his predecessors, including Tom Wallace, Dave Hill, Dave McClellan, and even looking way back, the team got much inspiration from what Zora did in the early days. And then secondly, propulsion. Russ leads the propulsion team, really getting the propulsion system right for the race car that's related to the actual car for the showroom. Third is design. Not only making it look beautiful, but making it fast. And those things have to go together. Form and function have got to work together. And then finally, it's really around working with the race team, which in our case is Pratt Miller. They've been a great partner for over, 25, 26 years. We've raced at Le Mans. This is our 21st year. So some really great learnings, and I will say we'll apply them all to our future variants.
So Laura, you talked about working on the fly to dial in those last few degrees of C8R. So flexibility is obviously key. What's happening with all the homologation changes in GT car, and how are you responding to that?
A lot is happening. I was really excited to get the opportunity to work with Corvette in January and quickly realized that everything was changing. So it's been a ride. What we're seeing is that currently the Corvette is on what is called the GTE platform. E is an elephant. And we race GTLM and IMSA, and then over at the WEC, it's also called GTE. They're seeing that there's been less appetite from the manufacturers. The numbers are coming down, and so there's been a global decision to move to the GT3 platform, as in the number 3. It makes it very complicated, and so it makes sense. There's quite a few OEs that have GT3 cars. I think it's upwards of 12 or 18 of them that have variants that are out there. So the series are trying to find places where they can bring volume in, because at the end of the day, you don't want to just race yourself. You want lots of good, strong competition so that you're out there learning as much as you can. And when you win, you walk away and you're proud of yourself from what you've achieved from learnings, as well as being able to beat all of your competitors. So we see this and we see the move. And so what we've been doing is we've been looking into, how do we adapt the car to be able to do that? So there's been a lot of discussions around Corvette racing and where we go. Thankfully, IMSA has given us a path where they know we couldn't have done something like create a GT3 car overnight. That takes time. It's developing a new race car. So they've given us a path where we can make some modifications to our car and temporarily stay in that space for a year or two, prior to bringing out a GT3 car. So we're working through all of that in the background. But there's a lot going on in the racing space, and there's a lot of great opportunities that weren't there before. We are very proud that we announced the Cadillac LMDH car that will be debuting in 2023. Yeah. That class is really enticing. It's cool. It's not the first time, because the DPI was the first, but it's even more progressive in that you can take a prototype platform, but you can inject your styling, your brand, as the body of the car, and then put your engine in there so that it looks and it sounds like your car. So that connection that we can have with our customers, with the brand, all of that is something that's extremely appealing, and you get to race for overall. It's a great package. So there's a lot of things we're evaluating right now and working through, and I think the future for sports car racing, especially at General Motors, is so exciting. This is the cool time to watch.
Great. And speaking of racing, Mr. Dillon, I understand that you were the first to test the new Z01 Camaro Cup car.
Yes, thanks for having me up here. It was at Richmond in Virginia there. We took the next-gen car to the track and had a great day testing it. It really flawless, actually. The first test was. We've made modifications on the car since then, and actually this year was my second time testing this. This happened pre-COVID, the first test of it, and we came back with it for a wheel force test just a couple weeks ago in Richmond.
Great. And what are some of the changes and updates from the 21 to the 22? Because it launches at Daytona in February.
Correct. There is a lot. It's a lot different. I'm really proud of our sport for going into the future with this car. You know, we've been on an older suspension for a long time now. You got independent rear suspension now with the transaxle.
No Panhard rod.
Yeah, we're done changing truck arms, and it's a good thing. We got new adjustments, much more engineering driven for this car, and I'm really excited about it. The sealed underwing with the diffuser, so you'll have more aerodynamics in the car. We've done a lot. One of my favorite things that I just got back from Daytona in the first test, drafting and really trying to figure out, because that's our biggest race of the year, the Daytona 500. We really want to go out there and have a good performance. So one of the new additions to the car was the rear view mirror camera.
Yeah.
I've depended on a spotter my entire career at speedways, and we had a small group, about 8 cars drafting out there, and I had my rear view mirror camera like right in front of me on my dash, and then I have a regular old school mirror up top, and my spotter's giving me what's going on behind me, sees the run, and he's calling out the run. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. He's actually, he's telling me the truth back there, because I can actually see what's going on with the rear view mirror camera, and just so many enhancements on this car. I'm looking forward to driving it. We're working really hard to get it ready for Daytona.
I know that's a big race for you, and in 2018, you won for your grandfather, Richard Childress Racing, in the number 3 car, the Intimidator's car. What did that feel like 20 years later to win?
Well, that was really special, but it was also Chevy's first win in the new Camaro, so that was pretty cool. Jim was there, and it was a blast. 20 years apart from, going to victory lane when Dale did it in '98. So obviously the history there with RCR and Chevrolet has been a long 10-year relationship, and we love that relationship. So to go to victory lane in a place with so many memories with my grandfather, it was very special.
And there was a lot of lead changes in that race. That must have been pretty cool.
Right down to the end. Yeah, so it was a blast. That race was a good one for us. And I forgot to mention, in the next gen car we have bolt-on front and rear clips. So it's something new that we'll be able to probably use the same car multiple times, easier to repair.
Nice.
With the new clips.
Great.
Can I share a quick story?
Yes, please.
In 2018, Austin won that race, Daytona 500. It was a big moment. It was big for him, big for Richard Childress Racing, Richard himself, of course, Chevrolet. And if you're familiar with the Daytona 500 trophy, Bill France and a guy named Harley Earl became friends. And Bill had a trophy created honoring his friend, Harley J. Earl. And so the Daytona 500 trophy is called the Harley J. Earl Trophy. And on top of it is a scale model of the Firebird concept, which was a very aerodynamic, cool concept car that we have in our Heritage Center here in Sterling Heights. And so most years we try to take that down to the Daytona 500, and we had it down there in 2018 in our Chevrolet Experience Center. And so after all the celebration was done, we had Austin and Richard and the crew chiefs and the whole crew come over, took a picture with the actual Firebird that's on top of the Harley J. Earl Trophy that Austin won. So that was a pretty special moment.
Yeah, awesome picture. I've got that one.
That's great.
That was great.
I think we have time for a couple more questions. I'm going to throw this to you, Jim. So why is a small block V8, Ed Cole's small block V8, lasted 70 years, and how do you pull it into the future?
Yeah. Well, it is an amazing story, and as you said, Ed Cole led the development of that engine with a whole, cadre of amazing engineers. And for those of you familiar with the small block, and of course this is Russ's, wheelhouse here for sure, it's really the compact design that delivers this amazing combination of, power, durability, and affordability, and to a degree for its class efficiency. And that has been true, since we introduced it and debuted it in '55, and it changed performance for Chevrolet forever. And it really actually became, down the road, because we made it very easily adaptable and upgradable. SEMA really, it was an accelerant for SEMA, because we had so many companies and enthusiasts that then found ways to take the small block and take it up another level. And to this day, that is true. When you go to SEMA, you see many enthusiasts that are taking a version of the small block or later the big block and LS, LT, circle track engines and just basically modifying them. And so that's why it's so special. It's really a combination of those benefits. And we continue to evolve it. As I said, the small block and then the big block LS, LT, and we actually see the sales of the small block, continuing along, but we're seeing this amazing run on LS and LT, like amazing increases. And I mentioned this crate engine business, whether you're just buying the engine or you're buying the whole propulsion system. We have a crate propulsion system you buy that's got the engine, transmission, the controller for both the engine and the transmission. You plug them and play them and install them, and you roll. And that's Russ's team that has done that. And that's really off the base of what Ed Cole did on the small block V8.
And those engines, just the small and big block, have tons of personality. And the engine is really the heart of the car. So I guess for Russ, what happens if and when ICE engine go away? Where does the personality come from in an EV?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think, at least in the performance space, they have a pretty good glide path, right? There's millions and millions of small blocks out there that people are going to continue to make parts for. But it's really compelling. The one thing, when Jim and I first drove both the E10 and the K5, what we've said is, if you put people in the cars, they're incredibly compelling. Maybe they don't have the noise or the smell or some of that stuff, but from a driver's perspective, and especially at the level that we're able to do it as far as the drivability and the performance, because we're literally carrying over all that calibration and everything. And the acceleration and that visceral, kind of jet engine type acceleration as compared to, it doesn't feel quite as fast, but it does because you don't get the noise.
Yeah.
But then when you realize how hard it's really accelerating, and there's a lot of other things, whether it's gear ratio and things that you can't really do with an internal combustion engine, but with electric, it doesn't really care how fast it's spinning, so you can put a ton of rear end in it. So even without huge power numbers, you have the ability to really get that street level hard acceleration, which is really what most people want.
Yeah.
So it's just another end of the spectrum, not to mention the cool factor. Like, whenever we pull, we've been doing a lot of street driving with our development vehicles, and it's amazing when you pull in, no matter what you're with, when someone realizes what those are, it's incredible, the questions, and if nothing else, it's very intriguing because it's new and different, and so that space, as it grows and as the performance continues to grow and you have more options, I think it's really going to be a good end of that spectrum that a lot of people will get excited about.
Excellent. Well, I think that's probably a good time to wrap it up, unless you guys have...
Yeah, I would just say, Eddie, a Detroit guy, thank you for hosting this for us, and you've got a great track record in the industry. Thanks for hosting us here. One thing I did want to mention, Austin, you've got a race this weekend, right?
Yeah, we'll be in Las Vegas this weekend, middle of the playoffs right now, and Chevrolet's looking pretty good.
Yeah, so keep an eye on the 3 out there.
7 races left?
Yes, sir. Seven to go.
That's great. So thanks for hosting us.
Thanks for having me.
Great job.
Hey, I would just mention before we go, if you have a chance to swing by our exhibit, we've got Laura's C8R, Corvette C8R, actual race cars, is one that we actually did our early testing on before we went to the racetrack. We have 2 championship edition models. They're the C8R championship edition, celebrating our 2020 championship that Laura and the Corvette team brought forth last year. We got 2 Copo Camaros. You have the initial proof of concept Copo Camaro that Russ and the team put together to actually prove it out and go get homologated with NHRA. We got a 2022, and what engine's in that one?
Yeah, that's our first foray with Copo in the new generation with a big block. So it has a 572 big block from our crate portfolio. So pretty cool.
And I think we're probably the first manufacturer, OE, that did an e-Copo or a version of electric drag car. We have the original e-Copo there. Come by and check it out. We do have the GMC Hummer Ev, the SUV, 830 horsepower, 11,500 foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, crab mode, crawl mode. It's got everything. You got to check it out. And we have a chassis there that has all the components and suspension that you can see exactly how we're set up. And then we've got, of course, the next-gen Camaro that Austin was talking about. In addition to all the things that Austin talked about, we also have a forged 18-inch aluminum wheel, a little bit closer to what we sell in the production for the Z01. And then finally, right when you step into our exhibit, GM Defense just won a contract for infantry squad vehicle. It's based on the Colorado, a lot of the learnings from our Best in the Desert Colorado race program, driven right into that for the military. We have an example of it for you to check out, and it's got a pretty amazing powertrain in it as well. So swing on by, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks, Eddie.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Thanks, Ed. Bye-bye.